Thanks very much for inviting me to speak at this new online conference. I'm very honored. I have two concerns that I want to talk about today, one about testers and the other about test automation. A few years ago, I heard a very compelling keynote at a major software testing conference in the States. It was an interesting story and well presented, but at the end I was left feeling that something was very wrong. The speaker described how they had, quotes, converted half of their testing staff to being automation tool coders, in other words, toolsmiths, and how wonderful this had been. The speaker was full of enthusiasm to finish the job and convert all of the rest of the testers to toolsmiths as well. I did wonder how enthusiastic the other half of testers would be, but what really horrified me was the way that she was selling this idea as the way forward for everyone. My response in a lightning keynote that afternoon was to tell the following story about two people both working at the same company. Leslie has a degree in computer science, started out in a traditional test team, and now works in a multidisciplinary agile team. Les is a person who likes to turn a hand to whatever needs doing and enjoys a technical challenge. Les is very happy to write code and has recently started coding for the test automation tool, making sure that good programming practices are applied to the testware and the test code. Les is very happy as a developer tester, also known as SDET, Software Development Engineer in Testing. Alex came into testing through the business side. Started out being the one user who was always a bit more interested in any new release from IT than the other users. Got drawn into the user acceptance test group and enjoyed testing. Found things that the technical people missed due to having such a valuable business background. With training in testing techniques, Alex has become a really good tester, providing great value to the organization. Alex now saves them hundreds of thousands a year, not just by finding things that the developers missed, but also by advising on new development and testing from a user perspective. Alex never wanted anything to do with code, but just loves testing. Now, what will happen if the CEO of that company was at the conference and hears, all testers should learn to code? Well, Les's job is secure, so she's all right. But what about Alex? I suspect that Alex is already feeling less valued by the organization and is worried about job security, in spite of him having provided a great service for years as an excellent software tester. Well, of course, that was a while ago now. What about now? Well, a few weeks ago, I came across a diagram that really made my blood boil. It popped up on LinkedIn, maybe you've seen it too. It shows an outline of a person in a yoga position with the title 7 Chakras of Tester, with 7 tools distributed over the body. It is so totally wrong. Where the brain should be, there is a tool. Where the backbone should be, there's a tool. Where the heart should be, there's a tool, and so on. The text with the diagram says, if you control these, your life will be invincible, which is utter nonsense for anything, and even more so for the use of tools by testers. As someone once said, a fool with a tool is still a fool. Now, to be fair, perhaps the person who posted that didn't know any better, maybe they're new to testing, and also I think they were probably just reflecting what the current attitude is. But it's the current attitude that I think is wrong and dangerous. Well, this brings me to my second concern about automation and its limitations. What are tools good for, and what can't they do? You might be thinking by now that I'm anti-tool or anti-automation. Absolutely not. If you had read any of the 3 books I have co-authored on test automation, please see Exhibit A, 3 books on test automation, you will know that I've been in favor of using tools in testing for a very long time. Tools and machines in general are really good at doing robotic, repetitive processes. People are not so good at that. They make mistakes, they find it boring, and they're a lot slower than a machine doing that type of task. Automation is most beneficial at the code level, component, API, unit level, whatever you call it, the smallest pieces of code that can sensibly be tested. This is where small tests repeated over and over with every change, with every update, can give you confidence that the main things are still working, and they can flag up a change that has a serious unwanted effect. I don't remember who said this, but it's very true. Test automation is actually change detection, and it's very good at that. But the testing at this level is limited. Actually, all testing is limited. But it's only checking for some things. If there's something that isn't specifically tested for, no matter how catastrophic it is, your tests will happily turn green and give you false confidence. This is even more true at higher levels of testing, since the most thorough testing is usually done at the lowest levels, nearest the code. You might check every code branch in a unit test, but a user acceptance test that includes that module might only exercise 2 of those branches. So automation is useful, but it does miss things. A lot of people are wary of automating at the higher levels. They believe it's difficult to automate at the GUI level, and that these automated tests are fragile and expensive to maintain. Unfortunately, many people do manage to create fragile, expensive to maintain tests at this level, but this is because their automation isn't done well. Good automation at higher levels must have levels of abstraction built in, so that changes to the GUI do not derail the automated tests. Building robust and easy-to-maintain tests isn't difficult to do, but it does require effort, and it should be built in from the beginning. Have a look for abstraction levels in the wiki testautomationpatterns.org, or have I mentioned there are some good automation books out there. So tools aren't perfect, they leave gaps, they take effort, but what's even more important is to realize what tools do not do. A tool does not define what it will be testing. It does not understand why this should be tested. A tool does not decide what's most important to test and what can safely be left out. Tools do not learn from what they've just tested and spontaneously create better tests. Tools do not have aha moments, such as, if this is wrong here, something similar might be wrong somewhere else. No tool will ever challenge an assumption. No tool will have an insight into a user concern or behavior, and no tool will ever think of how things might go wrong. Tools do not think. They have zero intelligence. They just do as they're programmed to do. They are mechanical repeaters of their instructions. They do not instruct themselves, they follow instructions. Well, we're considering automated testing, so what is testing? The essence of testing, I think, is to ask and to challenge. Asking stupid questions is an underrated skill, I believe. Even calling it manual testing doesn't seem quite right to me now, with an implication that, like manual labor, it's less worthy work. Why not call it human testing, or as Julian Harty calls it, in-person testing? Testing is mainly an intellectually stimulating and challenging activity, although it does have some robotic repetitive processes. I think that's the problem. What are the elements of testing, the different activities? I suggest 5, not including strategic and higher level aspects. First, identify what to test and what not to. Second, design tests to effectively investigate those things. Third, build the tests to efficiently run them, whether they're manual or automated. Fourth, run the tests. And fifth, analyze the results. Do you notice any differences between these activities? As we go down the list, the activities get more mechanical, more automatable. The last two, running tests and comparing results, is what test execution tools do. Also, as we go down the list, the activities are repeated more often. Tests are generally only identified and designed once, but are likely to be run over and over again. So what are tools good at? Tasks that are more mechanical and tasks that are repeated over and over. That's where the test execution tools are so helpful. But what governs how useful the tests are? What determines whether or not these tests are effective and give value to the organization? Well, let me give you a hint. It's not how fast they run, that's efficiency. What determines value is the quality of the tests. With respect to the organization's business, their objectives, their needs at the time, the activities at the top of the list, identifying what to test and designing the tests, determine the quality and effectiveness of those tests. Effectiveness is value, efficiency is speed. Now, I said at the start that I had two concerns, but actually I believe that the second is the cause of the first. The root of the problem with tester recruitment now is misunderstanding testing and automation. This is the nub of the problem. Because some testing activities can be automated, our industry has fallen into the trap of regarding all of testing as just those mechanical activities. But, and this is a huge but, the automatable activities of testing are not all of testing. And the other aspects of testing, the non-automatable activities, are those that are intellectually challenging and creative and bring real value to the testing. This is the common confusion, that testing consists only of automatable activities. Michael Bolton has a great presentation online called What's Wrong with Manual Testing. It's a great presentation. Makes comparisons to things like music, journalism, and riding a bike, and it's very entertaining. Do watch it. You can find it on developsense.com or on YouTube. One other point I'd like to make about testing at the GUI level. If your system has human users, if it's an app, a customer-facing system, a form that people will fill out, if you test only with tools, tests that are mechanical and repetitive, you will not begin to touch the immense creativity of real human beings who don't know what they're doing. Have you ever said of a user, well, who would have thought they would do that? If you have human users, you must have human testers. Ignore this at your peril. Get your children on it, or better yet, get your grandparents to try to use your systems. Well, let's return to where we started, with the popular notion that all testers should be toolsmiths. In today's world, the jobs for testers seem to focus mainly on what tools can be used. Now, this is a bit like hiring a chef on the basis of which cookers they can use, what food processors they have experience in, or what types of knives they can wield. If this was your hiring criteria for a chef, how successful would your new restaurant be? Would your customers be saying, this tasteless and unappealing food is beautifully chopped, so it's really good, it deserves 3 stars? It's not the tool that makes either food or automated tests really good. It's what the tool has been given to work with. A tool can make things efficient, i.e. faster, but the value of the end product is not because of the tool, it is assisted and supported by the tool. In a recent email exchange, a tester said to me, I have a strong preference for manual testing, but there's so much talk of automation at the moment, I wonder if I've picked the wrong specialization. This is someone who's in the early years of their career, from what I can tell is doing a great job for the company in testing. If people like this are forced into becoming automators because this seems to be the only path forward, we may well be losing the best of our talented young testers, and our systems will suffer for it. So what's wrong with testers who want to write code? Actually, absolutely nothing. For testers who want to code, who enjoy it, who are good at it, for testers in agile teams, it's appropriate and necessary, for testers who want to extend their skill sets in a technical direction, I have no objections to testers who want to travel this route. I think it's great. What I object to is forcing this route onto every tester. One size fits all. I believe this is a dangerous attitude for testing in general, and here's why. Not all testers will be good at programming or want to become developers or toolsmiths. Maybe like Alex, that's why they went into testing in the first place. Hans Buwalda says, you may lose a good tester and gain a poor programmer. This attitude of every tester has to be a toolsmith implies that the only good tester is one who can write code. This demoralizes and devalues those testers who are specialists and experts in human in-person testing. It also devaluates testing skills, which are quite different to development skills. It ignores the cognitive and intellectual facets of testing, which is what makes testing so useful and valuable, the non-automatable parts. And it leads to the mistaken but all too common management attitude of, let's fire all the testers and just get the right tools. Oh, one more thing. You might be thinking, well, why don't we just get the software developers in test to do any non-automated testing that needs to be done? Yes, that can work, just as getting a tester to do automation can also work. But the same argument holds. Just as not every tester would make a good automator, not every automator would make a good tester. If you have both skills in one person, that's absolutely great. But do make sure you have both skills within your organization. Don't inadvertently throw away the in-person testing expertise that you have built up over years just to follow a popular trend. So, what should you as a manager do about this? Rather than hiring only testers who can write code, should you hire only human testers? Certainly not. Neither extreme is right. You need both. Automation is essential to your business survival. Automation is necessary in continuous integration and delivery. You need to have people who are skilled in tool support for testing, whether they started out as testers or developers, but understand the limitations of automation, be aware that the gaps that an automation-heavy strategy has, and most important, be aware of all aspects of testing, both automatable and cognitive. So 5 points then to conclude. In order to do both testing and automation intelligently, first, be aware of the gaps in automated testing and ensure they are addressed. Second, invest in your automation to get robust, maintainable, and long-lived tool support. Third, understand that the sort of test activities that tools can do is only part of testing. That's the common confusion. Fourth, don't devalue and discard what might be your most valuable assets, the human in-person testers. Appreciate them and reward them. And last, have tools do what tools are good at and have people do what people are good at. Thanks very much.